I'm Kerry Stratton. I was born in Belleville, Ontario in 1952. I'm a conductor and broadcaster. Perfect happiness for me comes in several forms. A great concert makes me perfectly happy for a long time. Being with my family in peace and contentment, at home especially, is my idea of perfect happiness too. Well, I think the greatest fear for me, is that in some situation I might panic, because I find panic is particularly debilitating. But being afraid is not the problem, but giving way to panic could certainly make things difficult for you. I admire Sir Thomas Beecham, but for reasons that most people don't admire him, it seems. They always admire that brilliant man for some of the funny things that he said, and he certainly had a way with the English language. But I admire him for his musicianship and for the fact that he was absolute proof that the talent combined with the money that he had. Probably dislike is maybe a little strong. What I'd like to change is my habit of procrastination and perhaps taking on too many things at once. And maybe I'd prefer not to have been intimidated by others on quite so many occasions. I don't dislike that people have agendas. That doesn't bother me. What I dislike is that they won't state their objectives with me right up front. We could save a lot of time and guesswork if people would do that. Probably the most overrated virtue is innocence. In a child, it is of course beautiful and maybe even divine, but past a certain point there seems to be a need to try and preserve innocence when in fact information would be much more important. I lie to my children 3 lies which are essentially the same lie, without which we cannot live in comfort. Those lies would be: you're safe, nothing will happen to you, everything's okay. And a child without those beliefs is a very unhappy child. Well, I've visited 15 countries. I've enjoyed my travels, but ultimately the place that would make me happiest is whatever place would not necessitate having to explain myself all the time, or explain our profession, or justify what it is we're doing. I'm not particularly excessive about any one thing, but I find if I'm interested in something or passionate about something, I will do it to excess, no question about it. I really like to have tried out theater a great deal more than I did. A flirtation or something in the periphery was not enough. I often wish I had maybe devoted some serious time to acting. I would say some of the highest points in my life of satisfaction have invariably involved concerts that for me still resonate because they satisfied so much. I'm very happily married, and my family provides me with enormous, not that peak satisfaction, but the ongoing, dependable love. The lowest depths of despair that I have witnessed, and if I were to be asked to define them, that I have seen in various places in the world, is not that I see people who have despaired, but are despair without hope. You can have despair that lasts, you can have a blue funk that lasts for a month or a year, but eventually you must have a hope. It is the people who are not merely despair, but who are truly hopeless. That's the end. Nothing challenges me quite like my children. My wife answered my question, "Will you marry me?" with the words, "In a heartbeat." The first time I saw my son, and the first time I saw my daughter. Those were happy moments. If I have a greatest achievement, it is probably with persons whose names regrettably I don't know. But my greatest achievement, I hope, will have been to move people with a performance. My favorite word would have to be, if you make me choose, excitement. I suppose if I were to narrow it down to one thing, I think it was a penny upon which was written the Lord's Prayer, which my grandfather wore into the First World War. I wear it around my neck, and it's my only link with him. I'd be sad to lose it. I don't think any particular individual influenced me, but I found that there was, for music when I was a child, there was what I've read described elsewhere, and when I read it I said, yes, that's it. Infinite longing that I don't think I could achieve anywhere else except by conducting. "We'll be landing momentarily" is a phrase I love to hear, since I'm not really the world's most calm flyer. You could be sure of that. "Honey, the check came." Let's see. "Christmas," I like very much. That has that wonderful, dependable artificiality of safety and security, which, if even for an evening, is nice to have once a year. I look forward to trying to make my vision as clear as possible to the musicians, and to try and achieve that vision. I suppose it's a rather pedestrian answer, but when I go to work, I look forward to the work in the hope that I'll achieve results. If I could come back as a different person, I'd like to try to be the editor of a newspaper with no obligations to any advertisers. I most dislike that as a society, we seem to be knuckling under to the near Himmleresque bullying power of political correctness. If they want homogenization that badly, there's always a dairy. Well, I've got exactly probably two. If you'd have asked me that a few years ago, my favorite sound would have been, without question, the sound of the orchestra tuning up, because that means now's the time. That would have to compete very much now with the sound of, "Hi, Dad." If I could change the world, I would make life the one thing it isn't. Fair, imagine. If it's only one thing, I'd like to land a marlin, but if not, then there are a great slew of operas I'd love to conduct before I have to check out of this earthly veil. Most of them are by Richard Strauss. I would really enjoy to do that. With a really good orchestra, with a really fine orchestra, you can achieve volcanoes of sound, a calm ocean of quiet, a wonderful, exhilarating excitement. The music travels from your feet right up through you to your soul and past into that infinite longing. It is indescribable. It is the most neurotic sense of power and excitement that there is, and it ought not to be allowed, but it is. One of the conductors I admire very much, who's no longer with us, I admire what he wrote in a couple of books, one called simply On Music. He had the turn of phrase at the end of a long chapter with a brilliant argument, this turn of phrase, "Professionalism tempered with conviction." After all of the agendas of the board and of the sponsors and of the musicians and of the various unions you have to deal with and of the public probably too, it all has to go under the table when you get up on the podium and begin to conduct.
What the heck does that mean? A missing part of the body?
A missing part in assembling a child's toy. That